What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the 13th day of October, Thursday, 13th. Boogie, 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 boogie. It's about 53, 60 degrees and gloomy here at Site B. Looks like we're having some perfect gloomy October weather, and we've got some news. Tabletop role-playing game news from... who else? Hasbro. Hasbro has decided to produce its very own documentary on Dungeons & Dragons through its Entertainment One media division. It's being directed by Joe Manganiello and Kyle Newman. It's scheduled to be released by the 50th anniversary, 2024. It's got 400 hours of footage going back to the 1970s. Much of it has never been seen before. It'll have interviews with celebrities who play D&D. Oh, gee, I wonder who that's going to be. And yeah, look, no mention of Gygax anywhere in here. And also, I want you to notice who's making the documentary. Hasbro's making the documentary, not Wizards of the Coast. And nobody related to Wizards of the Coast is mentioned anywhere in the prints. Instead, it's Dungeons & Dragons bad boy poster boy Joe Manganiello and Kyle Newman. No mention of Jeannie D, though I bet you she'll show up in this, even though she's mentioned that she's not happy with the direction one D&D is going. So, in the midst of all the other documentaries about Dungeons & Dragons that everybody and their dog seems to be making, maybe I should make one. Now Hasbro's decided to jump on the Dungeons & Dragons documentary train in time for 2024. I mean, after all, they do own the fucking IP, and they've made it very clear how much the IP digitally means to them, as opposed to the actual game. If we go over the list of things that Hasbro feels is most worth their time, which we've done and will do again. Yeah, so the obviously it's going to be mainly focused on 5e and mainly focused on the stuff that Hasbro has done for Dungeons & Dragons. So since, Wizards of the Coast bought D&D, and then Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast. So I seriously doubt we'll see a lot of stuff about Dave and Gary and Dave and Tom and those guys. There might be an interview with Luke, but I would, considering his relationship with Wizards of the Coast, probably wouldn't count on it. Doubt there'd be an interview with Ernie or any of the girls or Gary's wife. So, probably will mostly be the Critical Role fans and all the Deborah Ann Wool and Joe, and I doubt Satine will be on it, and all the other Hollywood D&D types who have been playing D&D since the beginning. I wonder if they'll interview J. Scott Garrity, since he claims he knows more about D&D than anybody else in the world. Yeah, but notice again, it's Hasbro, not Wizards of the Coast. No mention of Gygax, no mention of any member of the Wizards of the Coast staff. Hasn't even gone into production yet, but Joe Manganiello is going to be directing it and probably narrating it. It'll probably focus on the Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons & Dragons stuff, from when Hasbro purchased this on forward, with a main focus probably on 5e digital, as opposed to the physical. And notice that it's if you go further, Cynthia Williams, who is the Wizards of the Coast digital president, is also being spoken of about this, but no mention of Crawford or Perkins or Merles. Sadly, no mention of Merles. No mention of J. Scott Garrity. Weird, because he does claim he knows more about D&D than anybody else on the earth, so you would think that they would get him to direct it, but whatever. Other people working on it will be the supposed games historian. Newman will be working on it. Peterson will be working on it. Hasbro will be working on it. Goldberg will be working on it. Looks like also there's something here about, did you know that Joe Manganiello is trying to get the exclusive rights to the creation of Dungeons and Dragons and the footage of Dungeons and Dragons from the 1970s on. I don't. So that's weird. I didn't know that. So Joe Manganiello and Newman and Goldberg. I don't know who Newman and Goldberg are because they don't give their first names here. Just says Newman. I guess that's Kyle Newman, who is a documentary filmmaker and has won awards for stuff. And Peterson, who's Peterson? It says Peterson. And Goldberg. Oh, also apparently Joe Manganiello is now the official ambassador of Dungeons & Dragons, a position formerly held by Satine Phoenix. Joe Peterson, Adam Goldberg, and Kyle Newman are also involved with it. John Peterson is the individual who claims he is the Dungeons & Dragons historian. Adam Goldberg is the individual who claims he is the Dungeons & Dragons scholar. And Kyle Newman is the other filmmaker. So Joe and these other people who claim they are experts of D&D and historians of D&D and scholars of D&D. Of course, obviously, they're referring to Wizards of the Coast Dungeons & Dragons. And apparently Joe Manganiello and these other two are trying to get the exclusive rights to everything that has been filmed for D&D pre-Hasbro. Which, I mean, I don't know how Hasbro's entertainment division and anything that was filmed about D&D prior to Hasbro purchasing it works. I mean, they own the name Dungeons & Dragons, but that doesn't mean they own some home movie that somebody made, and they definitely don't own Secrets of Blackmore. That'll be interesting if they try and go against the Secrets of Blackmore people or the other people who've been working on D&D documentaries not associated with Wizards of the Coast. So this could be a fine kettle of fish, you know? I mean, I guess Joe Manganiello is cool. He knows TJ. TJ says he's cool, so if TJ Storm says he's cool, then I guess he's cool. Of course, TJ Storm thought Satine Phoenix was cool, so make of that what you will. Yeah, I don't know who any of these people are. We have to look into Joe Peterson, Adam Goldberg, and Kyle Newman. Have to look more into this thing about Joe Manganiello trying to get the exclusive rights to all footage of D&D dating back to the 1970s. I don't even know if that would work, how that would work, considering so many people are involved, you know. And plus, there's all the stuff that's been done with Secrets of Blackmore and the other documentaries pre-existing this one about Dungeons & Dragons. You know, and how can Joe Manganiello get the film rights to some documentary about Dungeons & Dragons that was made 5 years ago? Can he get the film rights to Secrets of Blackmore, or all the D&D stuff that the people not associated with Wizards of the Coast is doing? And, you know, I'm sure they'll reach out to, you know, our favorite member of the shallow end of the D&D pool, that idiot J. Scott Garrity, because, you know, he has claimed repeatedly on DM James's channel that he knows more about D&D than anybody else on the planet. So yeah, Hasbro is making a Dungeons & Dragons documentary. Hasbro, not Wizards of the Coast. Directed by the ambassador of Dungeons & Dragons, Joe Manganiello, and featuring several individuals who claim they are scholars and historians of Dungeons & Dragons. Funny, how come you haven't interviewed me? You know? I mean, I've been playing this fucking game since it started. Yeah, so got a couple other things we need to look into there, but yeah. Joe Manganiello, documentary, Dungeons & Dragons, just in time for the 2024 anniversary. Think it's going to focus on anything prior to Wizards of the Coast's purchase of Dungeons & Dragons and Hasbro's purchase of Wizards of the Coast? Probably not. Once again, Hasbro's making it, not Wizards of the Coast. Think about that. I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate the nonsense that's coming out of my mouth, let me know. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please subscribe. Link down below. Please consider supporting me through one of the many ways you can support me, including buying my merch just in time for the holidays, because nothing says Christmas like supporting the OGGM. letting your loved ones know that you bought my merch just for them. Till next time, stay safe, stay warm. It is Halloween, so, check out that candy. And, free candy. A documentary about D&D by the people who own D&D. Yeah, that's not going to be biased. Sarcasm!